so today we are going down to Auburn. For those of you guys who are not watching, you probably have no idea what that is, but the director of athletics at the high school down there is hiring me to come down, and I'm basically going to go through everything when it comes to training their high school athletes across the board, from their volleyball to their swim to their baseball, basketball, all that, football. So basically I'm going to go in, we're going to talk about mobility, we're going to talk about program design, we're going to talk about nutrition to fuel their athletes, we're going to talk about dynamic warm-ups, everything, which is really cool because a lot of high school level or just school in general, unless you're at like an NCAA college, they're not really taking precautions or going the extra mile to make sure their athletes are fueled in doing the right things, training the right way, not getting injured, so on and so forth. So I'm pretty pumped. I'm going to go down today for about 3 hours and just break down everything there is to know about training for them. So let's get it. The other day we were in Starbucks. So 2018 is the year of generosity. I mean, not really, but that's what we've been saying. So me and Shannon were at Starbucks and we were like, oh, we're going to buy the people behind us coffee. And we pulled up to the drive-thru to say it, and the people in front of us bought us coffee and the people behind us. So we bought the people behind them and the people behind them, and it was like this trail of people buying each other coffee, and it was like the coolest thing. It just reminds you that people are actually fucking nice now. So we're gonna buy Handlebar Mustache behind us and his wife, nice couple that actually let me into the drive-thru because this guy cut me off. We're gonna buy them coffee because everybody needs a cup of Joe. Can I pay for the people behind me too?
The person behind you?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, here's your receipt. Thank you. And then for that second one, it's gonna be $22.50.
Ooh, they got some coffee. Yeah. It's always the luck of the draw. Awesome. You can just keep the change. Yeah, you can keep the change.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Coffee loaded.
We're ready to rock.
Go, bro.
Good, how you doing?
Oh, he didn't give me the sugar and shit either. So I go to a Starbucks, he didn't give me straws. I got you like sugars and Splenda and stuff on the side just in case whatever you wanted.
Okay.
He didn't give me any of that. I was like, hey, I'm gonna pay for the people behind me. Yeah. $22.75. I was like, there was 2 people in the car. What the hell did they get?
People like
it's a
something foamy.
Dude, it's
and
the luck
creamy.
of the draw. Thank you.
That's what I thought.
You have a lot of questions, and
yes.
I could definitely use this to break it down.
Perfect. And then I have, this is stuff that I wanted you to look at and get feedback from you on too.
Yeah,
like programs and stuff. Because I do weight training with my teams and stuff, and then some after school programs. And then Bryce heads up all the main after school weights and conditioning stuff. And so we run into headway with like space with stuff, where that's set up, how to pull things out. Like, you know, so we don't have any bands. We don't have.
I would definitely get some bands. You can buy like packs of Elite FTS bands for not that much.
Really?
Non-handle bands, because the ones with handles suck anyway.
Right.
They're just huge rubber bands.
Okay.
You can get those for a really good deal. Like I get them on Amazon, and I will buy singles, and I'm paying like $10 a band. But if you buy in bulk, if you buy in bulk, they're like super cheap.
Spongy.
So when you have a group of athletes in here, is it like you have your group and he has his group and you're doing 2 different things, or it's like you're in here and it's just you and
I'll come in after practice with my team, and then he's got the big after school group.
So you guys do skill work and then come in the gym afterwards?
Yeah. So right now it's soccer season, so I try to write up a conditioning program for them leading up to tryouts.
Are you doing anything different in season versus off season?
In terms of training, or what do you mean?
Training.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Also, I mean, yeah.
I think the big thing with off season, to be honest with you, is just lowering intensity overall.
And just going for it?
No, I mean you gotta have structure, but I'm just saying like they should not like, so in off season you can get away with lifting 70, 80, 90% of 1 rep max and like pushing them, strength, power wise. In season you shouldn't be doing any of that.
Right.
Because in season's all maintenance, like you don't want to injure anybody. But obviously it's high school too though, it's not college, it's not pro, so.
Right. Looking for longevity and health.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen a lot in high school too that is really bad, is because there's limited space, they'll do like they have their sections, right? Like this is the strength section, there's doing accessory work, they're doing some metabolic work.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay, 5 of you here, 5 of you, 5 there, and then we're just gonna rotate. The issue with that is like when you're phasing a workout, it should start with like mobility, warm up, activation, and then it should go into power development, then it should go into strength, and then it should go into accessory, and then it should go into metabolic.
Okay.
Because there's energy systems, right? But if you're doing the last energy system first, it's going to screw up your power development, it's going to screw up your CNS.
And that's the stuff that,
So,
that's the stuff.
and that's easy to lay out. If there's ever a point where you're like, okay, whoa, stop, let's go back, like just tell me, because I'll just keep fucking talking.
Okay, cool. Man, all right, let's hit
Cool,
that.
let's do it.
Let's hit that.
All right, so today we are at Auburn High School, and I'm going over some stuff with the health teacher. He's also a coach of a bunch of the teams here. And we're basically breaking down program design. We're gonna break down mobility, dynamic warm-ups, volume throughout the week, max effort versus dynamic effort. We're literally gonna cover everything there is to training his athletes throughout the year. It's really cool that this high school is actually investing money and time into having somebody come out and teach them this stuff. So I'm excited about it, and you guys are gonna get a ton of information, just program design in general, whether you are an athlete or not. So I think there's gonna be a lot of takeaways in this. Hey, like we gotta remember, Olympic lifts, clean, snatch, they were designed to do for 3 reps at most.
Yeah.
CrossFit took them and was like, oh, we're gonna do 20 reps as fast as you can. All your athletes are shoulder dominant athletes.
Yeah.
So we have to look at, okay, so I forgot about soccer. Yeah. So, but they're still anterior dominant. Right, most of the time, because a lot of times they're kicking so much, they're really quad dominant, really calf dominant, so they need a lot of hip work, they need a lot of glute and hamstring work, and we're gonna touch on knee stuff. Perfect. Hamstring's gonna save like every time I have a ACL, meniscus, anything, we just build the shit out of their hamstrings. Perfect. Like when I squat, I need to brace the core to get into a deep position while loaded up top, especially if I'm on back. If I don't, I'm either gonna arch or I'm gonna round, and I'm gonna cause issues in my low back. Everybody kind of knows that, like you have to turn your core before you deadlift, stuff like that. But when I go on a sprint, my core needs to turn on because I'm explosively punching through the floor. I'm being explosive, right? And they're going through these motions and their core is not turning on. This is exactly what happened to me. This is how people get hernias, because they're not turning on, then they start getting growing issues, their adductors overworking, then all of a sudden they get a hernia. Same thing. Yep, and that's where that activation warm-up phase I was talking about comes in, because if I get them into that and I go, okay, we're gonna stretch your hip flexors so we can release some of that tension that's in your quads, because you're so quad dominant, because you're sprinting all the time, you're kicking all the time, and then we're gonna activate your glutes, we're gonna activate your hamstrings, then we're gonna do some tension-based core work, and we're gonna repeat that circuit 3 or 4 times. Now we go to lift, or we go to train, or we go to sprint, and everything's firing properly. Right, so it's not about like how long can you hold a plank, it's like how hard can you turn that plank on for 10 seconds. I'll even do I call them standing planks. You can do them with big sandbags too. We'll load up the bar like heavy, stand up, rib cage down, and you just hold that shit. 60 seconds, holding, bracing there, dude. Talk about a strong core. Yeah, dude, and I can list out a bunch of exercises that you can just start putting together. Like EDTs are a really good one. So EDT is escalated density training. But you could do like an EDT for 8 minutes. And you could do like a goblet squat for 8 reps. You can do a TRX row.
Is that the new marker?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Red always goes out. You know what always works? It's stupid color.
EDTs can be really cool because look at, like, you go 8 minutes, start the clock. Okay, how many rounds can you get? 8 squats, goblet squats, so you're not going super heavy. Right. You should have a few in the tank every single round. 8 rows, 8 push-ups, and you just let them go. It's as many as you can. So you could do, you can do that stuff. You can do a circuit where you're doing like push-ups, rows, and kettlebell swings. You can do rope slams. You can do anything, but you can do shuttle sprints where I'm just like touching like 10-yard distance, like there and back as many times as I can in 15 seconds. 45-second rest. But this is kind of like your ratio for most metabolic finishers. 15 to 30-second burst, because I see a lot of people like, oh, I'm doing high intensity cardio, I'm doing a minute on and a minute off. And I'm like, dude, after 30 seconds, you're jogging. Like you can't, like ATP taps out at 10 seconds, which is your explosive fuel source, right? Like I would always do some kind of core variation in the activation too, because with core stuff, like I call it like activation-based core work, or like turn on, like a light switch, right? Like you see a lot of people like, I can hang on a plank forever, but I'm really like sinking in, I'm not in good posture. It's like, okay, how hard can you drive your elbows into the floor, squeeze your glutes, lock out your legs, like create as much tension as possible for 10 seconds.
That's like turn on. And what we'll do too is like 5-second intervals. So they'll be here and I'm like, go, and they brace and I go stop, go. And then it's like they have to constantly turn it on. Now all of a sudden I'm like firing. Or another cool one is wrap a band around them and then hold the band up. So when you pull, they have to light it up and then you let go and they can relax. Pull it and then it's like they're turning it on. Because again, if I go to sprint or jump, my core needs to work with my limbs. But the issue is when I go to sprint, my core doesn't turn on. Then my adductors, growing, everything's getting pulled on. Now I get low back issues. Power is not about how much weight you can lift, it's about how much force you can produce. So you will get better work doing a big explosive body weight jump, producing as much maximal force through the floor than you will trying to like explosively stand up with 200 something pounds on your back. I'd rather see an athlete jump as high as possible and produce that force. That's what's gonna turn on our CNS, that's what's gonna fire the muscles right. That's what's gonna prime our body and our nervous system to lift heavy. So if I do that explosive jump and then go squat heavy, golden. The most important thing about a box jump is the landing. Same with broad jumps, right? Because when do most ankle injuries or knee injuries happen? Deceleration, right? So I'm sprinting and I try to stop, that's how I tore my meniscus. Fucking my brother passed the ball to me, I'll never forget this. I was sprinting, he overplayed the ball, so I tried to like run and stop it and I pulled back and I tore my meniscus the first time. And, but so like basketball players coming down, volleyball players coming down, break the ankle, break the ACL, like, so we wanna go, hey, I want you to jump as explosively as possible, but if I can jump on a box this high, I'm gonna use a box this high.
That say like, you stay with 3 movements here and 2 movements here and 2 movements here.
Yep, 100%. The only thing I would change, it would be this. If I have for an athlete, 100%. If I have a bodybuilder, they don't really care about how powerful they are, right? But I know that if we turn their nervous system on, they're gonna lift heavier. So we might just go jam ball slam. Still gonna turn them on, I just not so less. I might actually spend more time here because I wanna build more muscle, create more tension. And then we might spend less time here because they're not so worried about strength. And we might spend more time here because they're more worried about hypertrophy. So maybe it looks like this, one thing, 4 or 5 things. Okay. Their finisher might be less metabolic, it might be curls and lateral raises because they want to build muscle. In a full body training session, you should always hit the fundamental movement patterns, but if you're doing an upper lower split, if you're doing leg days and stuff like that, or if you only have them 2 sessions and you know you're not gonna hit every movement every day in a good focus, then what you would do is make sure that your total weekly volume is set to hit these movement patterns. And I keep bringing them up, but I just want you to know what they are. So when you program, this is how you have your template pretty much made in your head. So when I write things on a paper, dominant, okay, there we go. Push, pull, times 2, core. So you gotta do a hip hinge, a knee dominant, a push, 2 pulls, and something for your core. Every single training session. It doesn't matter necessarily where you're filling them in. Throughout the week, you should, like, I'm not gonna be able to do a power hip, knee, push, and pull every single day, right? But throughout the week, I end up doing some power work for my pull and my hip hinge. I do some power work for my knee and my push throughout the week. But one training session might be, my power might be knee dominant. I'm doing a jump or a sprint or something explosive. And my strength might be a hip hinge because I'm doing a deadlift, right? My push might fall in here, my pull will fall in here and here. Regardless, I'm doing a little bit of everything. But these are your fundamental movement patterns. Deadlift, lunge, knee, squat, hip thrust, overhead press, bench press, push up, rows, pull downs, pull ups, anything for your core. Planks, farmer's carries, stuff like that. Now, I'm another guy that trains a lot of athletes I'm good friends with. Actually, you might have heard the podcast I did with him, Dr. John Russin. If not, go listen to him because he's fucking super smart. So he does this and he adds 2 more. And he does, so like a unilateral, so some kind of lunge. Actually, I'm just gonna put lunge because unilateral could be upper body too. So he'll put a lunge in here and he'll put a carry. Mandatory, if you can, add those 2 in. Yep. Okay, so carry is a very undervalued exercise. I mean, just farmer's carry, single arm carry. You can go half rack, so 1 kettlebell up top, 1 down below. You can go bottoms up, so upside down kettlebell. You want to improve shoulder health, dude. Bottoms up, upside down kettlebell. Grab like a 10 pound kettlebell and just have them hold that upside down perfectly and walk, dude, game changer. Really, really good for shoulder health. Because again, it's working all those stability muscles in your upper back. So that's huge. The next thing is gonna be the mobility stability continuum. That's what it's called. Yeah. If you comment on this video and tell me that I'm spelling wrong, I'm gonna get hate, just wait. All right, so up the line, right? So we look at the human body. Ankles, knees, hips, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, it just goes all the way up. Mobile, stable, mobile, stable, mobile, stable. It's a pattern in every single joint. So if I look at somebody, their ankles should be mobile. Their knees should not be mobile. Their knees should be stable. So we don't want a lot of movement out of their knees, right? You should get flexion, right? But you don't want too much lateral rotation. You don't want any of that. Your hips should be mobile. Your low back, that's why I like Russian twist where you're rotating. Your low back should be stable, not mobile.
You're talking about like SI joint, like right
Yep. So if I have an athlete who's like, man, I'm having knee pain, I'm like, okay, well, let's test your hip and ankle mobility. They're both shit. Okay, cool, we're gonna work on those. Most of the time they are. But I can guarantee you the reason they blew out their knee is because their ankles were immobile or their hips were immobile. So when you don't have mobility in your hips or knees, what's gonna try to make up for it when it is thrown into a position where it needs to be mobile? Right in between. So every time somebody has an injury, you look above and below. So if I'm running on a field and something happens, I got a cut, I get hit, I have to create a mobile situation in order to avoid this blunt force or this rotation or something, and I do not have the mobility in my hip to do it, and I do not have the mobility in my ankle to do it, the next thing that tries to do it is my knee blows out because it's supposed to be stable. Low back pain, you probably have lack of mobility in your hips or you probably have lack of mobility in your thoracic spine. There's your issue, right? So it's so simple and it just makes everything, because people will come to me like, oh, I can't squat, I got bad knees. I'm like, okay, well, what if I told you we can squat in 2 months? And they're like, it's not gonna happen. I'm like, okay, well, let's just try. We go through a ton of mobility on their ankles and hips, all of a sudden they're squatting ass to grass, no problem. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, this is the issue. And I went through the same thing, right? Like I injured my knee twice, and the first surgery, I'm sure I didn't have mobility when I tore my meniscus. When I went to rehab to get playing soccer again, I didn't do any mobility. He was pretty much just like, I'll just ride an exercise bike, like just get moving, you know? So I just rode an exercise bike and I got back to moving. I started playing soccer again. I was like, cool. Pre-season, tore my ACL in the same knee. And I was like, dude, what the hell? And this is why I'm here today, to be honest with you, is because I was like, something's not right, and I got fat. So I was like, I need to, 1, lose weight, and 2, I need to figure out how to get back on the soccer field, start skateboarding again. I wanted to do stuff. And I started like just obviously trying to lose weight, diet, start training. I started like getting interested in knee rehabilitation, and then I met this dude who runs the college program at Highline, and he taught me all this. That dude trained Deion Sanders. He worked with some people in the Olympics for swimming. So he created this program at Highline Community College, but it's been like nationally recognized as the top 3 schools for personal training in the country. Because if you go to school for kinesiology, they teach you about the Krebs cycle. They teach you about the vastus lateralis and all this anatomy stuff, right? And it's like, cool, but how do I train somebody? How do I apply that? They don't teach you that. So this school teaches you sales of personal training. They teach you anatomy, they teach you biology, they teach you nutrition. Then they teach you how to program design. They teach you how to go through the mobility stability continuum, how to go through this stuff. Like, then you have to complete 2 full internships under a coach before you can even graduate. So you had to go follow around a trainer and a coach. Dude, it's crazy. So like, game changer for me. But I was in school for business, and this dude walks in the gym and he saw me doing something stupid trying to fix my knee. And he was like, you should come by my class. And he's not like in great shape anymore. I mean, he's an older dude. He has MS, so he stopped training. I didn't know that at the time, but I'm just kind of like, okay, all right, bro. Like, I'm good. Like, I'll do my thing. But I hated school. Like, I was going for something I wasn't passionate about. And then you're going to business school, and like, I'll never forget this. I asked the teacher, I'm like, hey, how many businesses have you had? Oh, well, none. You know, I graduated business school, and then I came and started teaching. And I'm like, why are you telling me or trying to teach me how to start a business? Right? Like this, I was like, this is bullshit. So I skipped class and I go to this dude's class, and it just blew my mind. I went, changed my degree, forged my dad's signature. He was pissed, but I came home, I was like, yeah, I changed my degree. He's like, what? He didn't ask because he was paying for school. I was like, I got to do it. And I was like chubby. He was like, you're gonna be a trainer? What are you talking about? Horrible. But dude, like, yeah. And it's crazy because like I just had this gut feeling. But that's the guy I learned a lot of this stuff from. And he introduced me to like my next mentor and everything. So game changer. The worst programs out there are the programs or the coaches that try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Don't reinvent it. It works for a reason. It's simple. It's like if you really look at it. Pick some shit up, sit down, stand up,
Right.
push some shit, pull some stuff, carry some shit. But like that's the simple thing, right? Like I gotta be able to pick stuff up. I gotta be able to squat down and grab stuff or sit down comfortably. I gotta be able to push stuff, like whether it's pushing rocks or furniture or off me, over my head. I have to be able to pull things. And then I gotta be able to carry some shit. Yeah. If you look at like,
That's life.
yeah, caveman, dude, it's like,
What's your take on weighted pull-ups? That's a totally separate conversation.
love them.
You do?
If they have good overhead range of motion, absolutely. You know what I mean? So what I usually do is like, I will take somebody through a pull down and then assess how they move. So if I see somebody do a lat pull down and I can see their scapula really pulling down into depression, they're moving through the motion, they're not protracting at the top, they look good, dude, pull-ups all day. Pull-up is a really good relative strength movement. If they can add weight, even better. It just depends. If somebody can't reach overhead without, like, so if I go, hey, let's do a dumbbell press, and they have pain or like they can't even get overhead, I'm not doing any pull-ups. It's the same exact thing, right? So load overhead, or I'm hanging and I have load. So if people are like that, I'll do like hanging hollow holds is what we call it, which are good because you do a pull-up position, but you just hang from the bar and let your body sink into it. So your lats are stretching like crazy, your chest is stretching, you're opening up. With periodization, there's linear, there's block, there's undulating. What I find that works best with most people is gonna be some form of undulating. So undulating periodization means you're doing different rep ranges throughout the week. A linear approach would be like, okay, we're staying in the 4 to 5 rep range because we're building strength, right? We're gonna stay there for the next 8 weeks. We might change up exercises, but for the next 2 months, we're focusing on strength. Then we're gonna spend a month in hypertrophy. So we're gonna go 8, 10, 12 rep range because we have to do a little bit of everything, but 2/3 of our main focus, and this applies to you, 2/3 of everything we do should be about our main focus. Your guys' main focus is strength and power development because they're athletes. So 2/3 of your volume should be in that 3, 5, 6, 8 at the most rep range. And then every once in a while you throw in like 10, 12, 15 rep range stuff. What we used to do with linear approaches is like, okay, we're gonna focus on this so we get really good at this. Then we're gonna spend about 4 to 6 weeks on hypertrophy work because we need to work on that. We're gonna take a break from that. Then we're gonna come back. Well, now when I come back to that strength work, which is my main focus, I'm not as good as I was. So I have to kind of play catch up for 3 to 4 weeks. Then I improve for a little bit and then I take a break and then I play catch up for 3 to 4 weeks. So you're really like spending a fourth of your year improving. Undulated periodization would be Monday I'm doing strength work, Wednesday I'm doing hypertrophy work every single week. So I'm constantly getting better at both. I never slow down.
What's your take on weight belts?
I love them, but not for the reason most people use them. They're not a Band-Aid, right? So like a lot of people use weight belts and they just assume it's like wearing, if I sprain my ankle and I wear an ankle brace, well now I'm restricting all movement. I'm not gonna get blood flow or oxygen to the muscle and the joints, which is gonna cause a delay of healing, but it's also restricting movement patterns. So when I take that off, I have like a very stiff ankle. I'd rather see a guy moving it constantly, even if it's like, it doesn't feel good, like keep doing it. So with a weight belt, I see a lot of people just throw it on like, oh, I'm deadlifting, throw it on, it'll protect me. Well, what are you using it for? So it should be used for an external cue to breathe properly. So if we look at diaphragmatic breathing, we're breathing through the lower abdominal region. Well, a lot of people are chest breathers. So if I go, now I'm in a flared rib cage position, extended, I have no core integrity, my core's not on, period. Because you can't fire your core like when I have a flared rib cage. If I breathe through my abdominals, my rib cage comes down and I have like this braced support right around there. So a lot of people, I think a weight belt should be used to train you how to not use it.
Got it.
So I tell people to use it, and I still use it when I go heavy because like it's hard for people to breathe. Like if you try to breathe through your low stomach, so it's hard for a lot of people to breathe down there. But like if you get somebody like laying on the floor doing breath work, and that's good to do after training to calm their nervous system down, like you touch like their lower abs, like as they breathe, they can breathe into your fingers better. So a belt, there's pressure here. Okay, breathe into the belt. And now I brace. So a good way to do that is sucking through a straw. So if I go, it's way harder to breathe through there. But if I, for some reason, it's easier to expand your abdominals. Some people like it breathing through the nose that way too, but I've always found like suck through a straw. Diaphragmatic breathing helps a lot. So like what I'll do is like, if I have somebody like doing a lat stretch, they're hanging from something, they're just doing long breaths. I had really tight lats, and when I used to do this, I'd be hanging, and you'd slowly see, like I'd go from not touching the floor to touching the floor easily, because my lats were so tight and I didn't realize, but as I breathed, my body would loosen up the tissue and let it open up. So breathing is huge on that, and you gotta breathe like I always tell people, like, I wanna hear you breathe. If we're doing breathing, if I don't hear you going, you're not doing it right. Results come from stress and adaptation, right? Stress is work, stress is dieting, so like having too little calories, which is needed to lose weight sometimes. Training is a stress. We need stress in order to cause adaptation. Adaptation is when your body makes the changes, right? Adaptation is recovery, so it's sleep, it's nutrition, it's Epsom salt baths, it's breathing, it's all the shit that's not sexy. So people train, they grind, they work, and then they never adapt. So they're like, why aren't I seeing results? I'm killing myself. And it's like, well, you're skipping the biggest part, right? You don't really make a ton of gains in the gym. You stress your body in the gym. You go home and sleep, you get a good meal, you rest, you recover, you breathe, you make results. Like when that shit clicked for me, it was like, the hard part is explaining that to clients and to young athletes who just want to fucking go. Yeah. And I get it, right? Like, yeah. If we look at metabolism is run by calories, right? So calories in and calories out. So how much activity are you doing and how much food are you taking in? The issue is people start training more and eating less. So metabolism slows down. So if we have kids that we're not feeding, we're setting them up for a slower metabolism. The thyroid takes a big hit when you don't consume enough of the right foods and enough food, period, which directly slows down the metabolism, slows down your testosterone, slows down, or it fatigues out your adrenals. So now you have lack of energy issues, your cortisol goes up. It's like the most vicious hormonal cycle, and it's all because like you're not eating enough. So like one of my main jobs now as a nutrition coach is literally repairing people. Like people come to me who have dieted too hard for a long time, they train too hard, they're not recovering, they're not sleeping, they're stressed out, they don't get enough food, and they're just stuck. They're not losing weight, they're not building muscle, anything. And I tell them to eat 1,000 more calories, and they're like, what? And I'm like, you're probably not gonna lose weight for a while, but we'll get you there. And they spend time with me, and then all of a sudden, they're fixed. Honestly, I think the smartest thing to do is start implementing this stuff, and then just text me. Because if you're like, dude, I tried to do this, and then I noticed this, or like, when I'm programming this, what do I do about this? Like, just hit me up. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
We are finally on our way home. We spent about like 4 hours just going over program design, in-season versus off-season, warming up and activation, power and strength, like everything there is to know about training an athlete, but just training in general and like how they should be going about training their athletes. Like I can't say enough like kudos to Auburn High School out here. It's a big high school, but like the fact that they're hiring somebody to come out and teach their coaches this stuff is just phenomenal work for at such a young and developmental age as an athlete. But really fun time, and like it just is, it amps me up because I'm getting to the point in my career where I'm going to be educating more and more and like presenting more and more, and I just love honing in on my craft and just being able to talk and like, man, I can just go. So it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys take a lot out of it, and I know that like if you guys sit down and take notes and like really dial into what I was talking about, you'll be able to tweak your own training program so much for such better results that like just this video in general will be like so valuable to anybody out there trying to take their results to the next level. So I hope you guys like it. Stay tuned for my next videos. Keep watching the Q&As that are going to be dropping on a regular basis every week on YouTube. And then obviously if you want podcasts, you want coaching, you want my ebook products like Functional Muscle that just broke down or just came out, go to boomboomperformance.com/products, and they have everything on there from coaching to the books and everything. You can get a ton of good info there. I'll see you guys next time.